Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Hublot Classic Fusion Aerofusion Black Magic, 45 millimeters in alternately brushed and polished ceramic. This is a watch that combines some of the threads of Hublot's past, its present, while looking to the future. Now, you can see this watch is a little bit more, perhaps, elegant, a little bit more refined, a little bit thinner, a little bit more sophisticated in its style, still extrovert, still confident, even a little bit brash, but not the sheer brass-knuckled visual punch that you get from the Big Bang and the King Powers. It's a little bit more of an adult Hublot, so it blends that thread of the original MDM Geneve Hublot watches, the early 1980s, the Carlo Croco designs, with the modern era of Jean-Claude Biver's Big Bang, the dominance of complications, skeletonization, and black ceramic. Now you can see on the wrist, the watch is a little bit lower in profile than a Big Bang or a King Power. Now the watch is about 14.5 millimeters thick, so by no means is it a svelte sports watch, but the bottom line is it definitely has a little bit more of an upscale refinement. It's less of the schoolyard bully and maybe a little bit more of James Bond in a suit. Well, maybe not James Bond in a suit, but maybe a Bond villain. It's got a sinister elegance to it. All black, you can see a combination of alligator leather and natural rubber underneath. Very comfortable on the wrist. Now ceramic is going to wear lighter than steel. A little bit heftier than titanium, but it's sort of between the two. And because the inner watch case of this Aerofusion is comprised of titanium, you get very close to the feel of a titanium watch on the wrist. Now you can see from this profile shot that the Aerofusion Black Magic is actually quite compact side to side. Although 45 millimeters, the short and curved lugs, and I mean very short and very sharply angled, begin to actually work the strap around your wrist before the case even ends. So the watch fits on a smaller wrist quite easily. Again, my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters, wears this watch securely and comfortably. Big part of that equation is always Hublot's use of materials. The natural rubber, still some of the best in the industry. From 1980, the first company to combine a truly high-end, high horology premium price point with natural rubber, scandalous at the time. It's been ripped off by virtually everyone to this point, which is why Hublot takes pains to stay ahead. That's why the Aerofusion combines sapphire, alligator leather, natural rubber, titanium, ceramic, and even PVD steel in a material fusion that earns this watch its name, Classic Fusion. Like I said earlier, a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new, and looking to the future. Now, in 2013, this model debuted, so it's one of the newer references in the Hublot catalog. And Aero, for those who don't speak Hublese, means skeletonized dial, and you have that right here. Now, on the outside, you have ceramic, kiln-fired, very scratch-resistant, almost as hard as sapphire. It has to be shaped and polished with diamond tools because only diamond can reliably scratch or cut it. So the watch is very durable on the outside. That's where the future comes into play. Moving inboard, you see a little bit of Hublot precedent with the H-shaped titanium bezel bolts on a brush pattern ceramic bezel. So it's got a little bit of contrast with the polished and brushed facets of the case being brushed and polished in its own right for high contrast. So all black, but you do get that contrast, and you can see it to good effect in the light right here between the polished shoulders of the lug and the brushed center. Likewise, you can see the polished shoulders of the bezel and the brushed top, a little bit more matte, and the polished bolts for high contrast within. But moving in to that aero or skeletonized dial, there are a couple of elements that really stand out. The first is that you're not looking at one, not two, but 3 separate sapphire crystals. The first, of course, covers the entire assembly. The second actually forms the dial itself. So the diamond polished indices that you see marking the hours, the calibrations, even the Hublot marquee and logo at 12 o'clock are all sitting along with the sub-registers at 9 o'clock and 3. They're all sitting on that second sapphire, so the features of the dial seem to float above the skeletonized movement itself. And then there's that third sapphire, and that's where the date disc comes into play. It is itself transparent, so you see that all of the numerals of the date actually revolve around the circumference of the dial, and there's a little light-colored plate right where my thumb is at 6 o'clock, and as the numeral of the sapphire disc moves over that light backdrop, it seems to be backlit, illuminating the date for any given day at 6 o'clock. Now you can see part of the highlight of any Hublot aero dial is the skeletonization that lets you view into the movement, and it's even better paired with a modular chronograph like this one, because with a modular chronograph, the components of the movement, and you can see up here at 2 o'clock, you'll see the operation of the cam system that actuates the modular chronograph. With a modular chronograph, everything is on the dial side, so the complication is front and center. You can admire its operation, you can admire its drivetrain, you can admire its peripheral mechanics and actuators, and it's been nicely finished. All this without taking the watch off of your wrist. Now, being part of the Classic Fusion series, the dial composition is a little bit more elegant. When you combine the diamond-polished stick indices, the high-polished baton hands, when you combine the print, the calibrations, and the sub-registers that seem to float above that beautiful anodized and skeletonized movement, you get a very elegant, gossamer, almost spider web-like look. Less a skeleton than a web. There is a refinement and a delicacy that's almost a little bit formal. This is the rare Hublot chronograph that could pass muster with a suit. Now, on the case back, automatic winding, you can see a sapphire display window, and you can see the base movement. This is an Hublot 1155 chronograph caliber, modular with a Dubois de Praz vertical clutch chronograph module on top of a Sellita SW300 base movement. Very tough, automatic winding with a 42-hour power reserve, essentially a set it and forget it, no worries mechanical watch. So if you like the mechanical movements, if you like automatic winding, if you like to have a watch with an audible heartbeat and soul, but you don't want to worry about fragility, you don't want to worry about having a delicate little machine on your wrist, the combination of the SW300 with the bomb-proof Dubois de Praz module is an excellent pairing for an all-ceramic watch with a rubber and alligator leather strap. This is tough stuff inside and out. And of course, like the rest of the watch, you see the materials fusion with the titanium bolts, the sapphire, and of course the rhodium-coated brass of the movement itself. This is a feast for the eyes, but it's also a feast for the wrist, being a little bit lighter, a little bit more discreet, perhaps a little bit more versatile than a Big Bang or a King Power. This is the Hublot that can attend the opera. This is the Hublot that's welcome in the five-star restaurant. This is the Hublot that goes everywhere you do, wearing long sleeves and short. This is the Hublot Classic Fusion Aerofusion Black Magic, 45 millimeters in brushed and polished black ceramic, available on our website, Watch You Want.